We left off the other day, Act 1, Scene 2, and we'll be lucky if we get through Act 1 today, which I know puts us behind a couple of days. But I got some time built in towards the end of the semester where we're only covering like 2 poems in a period, which I think there's enough of those where we can kind of back stuff up and get it covered. Okay, so I think we got to, or we were just about to get to Claudius' speech in response to Hamlet's talking about his internal sorrow, or his inner sorrow. This is pages 1610 and 1611 in your textbook. And Hamlet finishes his speech by saying, I have that within which passeth show these but the trappings and the suits of woe. And the king listens to that speech and he says, Hamlet, that's good. That's good. 'Tis sweet and commendable in your nature, Hamlet, to give these morning duties to your father. But you must know, your father lost a father, that father lost his. And the survivor bound in filial obligation for some term to do obsequious sorrow. Obsequies are kind of like, expressions of sorrow and mourning. To do obsequious sorrow, but to persevere in obstinate condolement is a course of impious stubbornness. 1, he's just accused Hamlet of persevering in obstinate, pig-headed, stubborn condolement, mourning. Okay? And he says, that is an action of impious stubbornness. Impious. It goes against God. It goes against all religion. It goes against, religious belief and practice and such. So, he's saying, Hamlet, you're kind of acting like, your mourning for your father is out of your great devotion to God. Your mourning for your father, however, is against religious practice. That's his first slam, let's say. And then he says, 'tis unmanly grief. Unmanly. You're acting like a girl. You're acting like a woman, Hamlet. What else? It shows a will most incorrect to heaven. You are not working in accordance with God's will. Okay? A heart unfortified, you're a weakling. A mind impatient, that is, a mind that can't endure, a mind that can't overcome suffering. An understanding simple, stupid, untrained, is what that means, and unschooled. You're like a little boy who hasn't grown up, having to learn how to overcome hardship. For what we know must be, and is as common as any of the most vulgar thing to sense, why should we in our peevish opposition take it to heart? This must happen. What's the this? Your father died. Boo-hoo. We mourned his death. Guess what? His father died. What do you think your father did when his father died? He did obsequious sorrow, as was fitting, but he didn't overdo it. Why? Because his father died before him. What's the fact of life? What are the 2 basic facts of life? 2 things, according to the joke, you can't escape. Taxes and death. Okay? You're born to die. Period. That's what Claudius is saying. Okay? So he says, we pray you, throw to earth this unprevailing woe. That is, throw away, get rid of this woe that has taken control of you, Hamlet. And do what? Think of us as a father. Look at me as your father now. That's why he said earlier, but now my cousin Hamlet and my son. He wants Hamlet to think of himself as his son and him as his father. He says, you are the most immediate to our throne. Well, how immediate? You're next in line, Hamlet. Okay? So he says, I don't want you going back to school in Wittenberg. I don't want you going back to college. Well, how immediate to the throne was Hamlet, let's say, 6 months previous to this, before Hamlet Sr. died? He was next in line. So why is Claudius the king? Well, just as the ghost usurps this time of night, Claudius usurped the throne. That's why I said the other day, you want to watch a modern version, watch The Lion King. Because Hamlet Sr. is Mufasa, Simba is Hamlet, Scar is Claudius. It's the exact same plot. Okay? So, his mother says, let not thy mother lose her prayers, Hamlet. Stay here. He says, I shall. Okay? So, they finish. Everybody leaves but Hamlet. And Hamlet gets his first soliloquy. And it's a doozy. The opening lines. Oh, that this too sullied flesh would melt, thaw, and resolve itself into a dew. Now, editors believe that Shakespeare's preferred reading for that first line is that word sullied. And I'm not going to take much time on this, but I'm going to spend a minute. The first folio, the first collected edition of Shakespeare's plays, prints sullied for that line. What does sullied mean? Louder? Ruined. How? How do you sully someone's reputation? You taint it. You throw dirt on it. You know? You have somebody who has a reputation as being a good, upright person. How do you sully it? You suggest they're not. You suggest that person got to their position in life through cheating, through backstabbing, through breaking laws, etc. Okay? That sullies their reputation. What does solid mean? Obviously. That's it. It's solid. It's not permeable. It's not evanescent. It has solidity to it. Well, the body has solidity to it, right? Everybody knows that. You look at any person and you go, oh, I don't know if they're really solid or not. Take your baby, throw it against the wall. What's it going to do? It's not going to float right through. It's going to bounce off. Okay? Why? Because they're solid. So to say, oh, that this too solid flesh would melt, yeah, the melt, thaw, resolve, that works in the line. Okay? But the more difficult reading is solid. Because that implies both the solidity and then what else? That's what is wrong with the flesh. It's dirty, it's tainted, it's ruined. Okay? And this is why Hamlet wants it to melt, thaw, and resolve. Because what is meant by the word resolve? Here's an example where your editor has chosen not to gloss a word, but should. Because we think to resolve something means what? You fix it. Okay, but how do you resolve something by melting it and thawing it? That doesn't make any sense. Unless you understand a chemical process. Okay? Melting, thawing, resolving is talking about taking something that is sullied/solid, reducing it, and in reducing it, what are you removing? The impurities. It'd be like taking the water in this bottle, which is not purified water. Why? Because I fill it up many times a day from a tap. The water that comes out of your tap is not pure. It would be taking that and doing what to it to purify it? Dropping a chlorine tablet in it? That might be one way, but that adds impurities to it. Why? Boiling it. You boil it, and then what do? As it's boiling, you put a top on that pot, and you run coiled tubing out, and it empties into another pot. What happens? Steam goes through the tubing, condenses, comes out as drops of water. That is purified. Would the amount of water you have here be, theoretically, the same as you boil? No, it would not. Why? You've removed the impurities. That's what he's talking about. Oh, that this too sullied flesh would melt. How do you melt flesh? I've been on fire before. I mean, real fire, 3rd-degree burns. It's not pleasant. Yeah, the flesh does melt. Okay? It's a disgusting process. That's not what he's talking about. It's death. It's death in the purification process. Okay? Which we're going to hear referred to by the ghost in a few moments. That it would melt, thaw, that's the cooling part, and resolve. That's the drips of water coming out of the coil into a dew. The image is of a body, a full-sized human male body, being resolved, purified to what? Like a drop of dew. What's that saying about the mass of this? It's rotten. Okay? Or, okay, so let's say that one can't happen. Or that the everlasting had not fixed his cannon against self-slaughter. Or that God hadn't said, don't kill yourself. See, in the Catholic Church, at this time, that is the time that the play is written, as well as the world of the play, the Middle Ages, the Catholic Church taught suicide is the quote-unquote sin against the Holy Spirit. It's the unforgivable sin. Why? Why is every other sin supposedly forgivable? You steal from somebody. You can repent. You can say, I'm sorry, here's what I stole from you back, and maybe you're going to go all fully Levitical, and you're going to pay him back, interest on top. Or you killed somebody. You can repent of that. You can beg forgiveness. You can be, quote-unquote, clean from it. You can't do that with suicide. You can't say, God, I'm really sorry. I repent for what I'm about to do. You can't repent for a crime/sin you haven't yet done. Even though, I shouldn't get off into this because we're so far back already. Even though Martin Luther, Halloween 1517, started the Protestant Reformation, he didn't intend to start the Protestant Reformation. He just had a bunch of questions. Why? Because in the late medieval Catholic Church, there arose a system of indulgences. Indulgences were pieces of paper essentially signed by the Pope that you could purchase that bought you time out of purgatory. And you could buy them for varying amounts. Varying amounts of money equals varying amounts of years. So let's say you commit a crime, a sin. You steal. You can buy an indulgence that would essentially cover the amount of years you would spend in purgatory for that sin. So you die, You go to heaven and you hand to St. Peter, here's my time out of purgatory. You get sent down to purgatory, and the clock is set, and then it's run back, 5 years, whatever. Here's the real, that was problematic in and of itself. Here's where the real problem occurred. You can buy indulgences for a sin you hadn't yet committed. So, you're a typical red-blooded European male. You see a beautiful woman and you think, okay, I'm going to rape her. So you go to your local indulgence seller and you buy an indulgence for rape. You could do that. And then you go rape her, and then you go, ha ha ha, when you die. You don't hand that to the police when you get caught. You say, yeah, but look here, the Pope said it was okay. You die, you go to purgatory, and the rape is essentially wiped away. Well, that really angered Martin Luther. That was one of many things. So, you can't do that for suicide, though. Oh God, God, how weary, stale, flat, and unprofitable seem to me all the uses of this world. In other words, what does Hamlet not find in this world? Interest, pleasure, joy, happiness, fun, laughter, anything good. You know anybody who's ever been like that? He is in other words, in what kind, possibly, don't want to go too psychoanalytical, what kind of state of mind? It's this kind of attitude that causes people to become suicidal. If you don't see any good anywhere, if you don't see any point for going on, and that is not having any uses of the world, that is, if everything is totally meaningless to you, a lot of people say, then why go on? Just 'tis an unweeded garden that grows to seed. Why? Well, he's getting to why he thinks this. It's not because this is Hamlet's natural state. No. But it should come to this. But 2 months dead. He's talking about his father. Nay, not so much. Not 2. He hasn't even been dead 2 whole months. It's at least a month, but Hamlet says it's not even 2 whole months. Might be 6 weeks, might be 7 weeks. So excellent a king. That was to this. And he should point to the door that Claudius left in, or left through. Hyperion. Look at your gloss for Hyperion. God of the sun. Before Apollo was God of the sun. Hyperion to a satyr. Think of the great chain of being. Where would Hyperion be? He'd be in the angelic realm. Where would a satyr be? Not in the human. Bestial. He goes on, talking about his mother. She used to dote on him, as if all her happiness came from him. He says, and yet within a month. And within a month, what? She married Claudius less than a month after the death of her husband. Now, that could mean 30 days. Maybe it was February. It could mean 28 days. Frailty, thy name is woman. Why? Why does he say she is frail? First of all, what is somebody who is frail? Weak. None of you in here look frail. You all look fairly robust. And I don't mean that means big. I'm not accusing anybody of being fat or anything like that. You look healthy. Frail would be if you suddenly aged 60 years you know, and you're walking around with a cane or walker, kind of a thing. So why does he accuse his mother of being frail? Where does she show her frailty? Because when we see Gertrude, she doesn't look frail. So what kind of frailty is this? Emotional. Why? What can she apparently not live without? What kind of person? A man. She would not do well in the Me Too movement kind of a thing. Because she always has to have a man, apparently, to make her life meaningful. Frailty, thy name is woman. A little much. Or ere those shoes were old with which she followed my poor father's body, like Niobe. What's he talking? Why does he bring up her shoes, of all things? Because the shoes he's talking about are the shoes she wore to his funeral. The implication is they're new shoes. And she did what? She didn't even break them in before it was time to wear those same shoes to her new wedding. It's almost like they stopped on the way to the wedding to perform the funeral. I mean, that's the idea Hamlet wants to convey. How quickly she got married. How do we know? Oh, most wicked speed to post with such dexterity to incestuous sheets. Why with such dexterity? What does that imply? Louder? Quickness. What else? Agility. Like a gymnast. She was so fast, so quick, so agile to get into Claudius's bed. That's the incestuous sheets. It is not, nor it cannot come to good. Hamlet said, there is a problem here. But break my heart, for I must hold my tongue. Why? Can he walk around telling his friends, Mom's a whore? Mom's a queen, first of all. No, you can't do that. Well, not in polite society, Today, who knows? Not in this time period. All right? So, Horatio comes in. So, break my heart. He's saying, even though my heart breaks, I've got to do what? I can't tell anybody what I'm thinking. Horatio comes in. And Hamlet's like, what are you doing here? He says a truant disposition. He's using truant in the old sense of the meaning. Skipping school. Hamlet goes, you liar. I know why you're here. You came here to see my mother married. And he said, I actually came to see your father's funeral. No, I think it was to see my mother's wedding. It followed hard upon. And just, couldn't miss the one because it happened so quickly. So, Hamlet says, oh, my father. I think I see my father. Where? In my mind's eye, Horatio. I saw him once. It was a goodly king. Hamlet. He was a man. Shall not look. Well, I saw him last night. Saw who? Your father. The king, my father. Yep. Let me explain. And so he explains. Tells them 3 nights in a row now the dead king has appeared. So Hamlet says, I'll keep watch with you tonight. And he tells them, page 1615, if it assume my noble father's person, this is around line 242 or so, I'll speak to it. In fact, I'll speak to it even what? Even though hell itself should gape and bid me hold my peace. So, if you've kept this a secret, keep it a secret. Don't tell anybody. And we'll meet tonight. They all leave and leave Hamlet alone on the stage. My father's spirit in arms, all is not well. I doubt, meaning I expect some foul play. What's he mean? Hamlet already thinks dead didn't die a natural death. Natural meaning the story that to be given out. What was the story? Took a nap in his orchard, in his garden, and a snake crept up and bit him. And he died of the poison. Would the night will come. Till then, sit still, my soul. Why is he telling his soul to sit still? Why do you tell a dog, sit still, if the dog is already sitting still? You don't. You say it when the dog is doing what? Jumping up, being rambunctious. He's telling his soul, sit down, boy. Why? Because his soul was welling up. His emotions, his anger, his frustration. All right? So, we get the next scene, scene 3. It's a room in Polonius' house, and there's Laertes and Ophelia. Laertes and Ophelia are children of Polonius. Remember, Polonius is the Lord Chamberlain. He's an advisor to the king. So, what do they talk about? They talk about Hamlet and Hamlet's love for Ophelia. He tells her, line 5, for Hamlet and the trifling of his favor hold it a fashion and a toy in blood, a violet in the youth of priming nature, forward not permanent, sweet not lasting, the perfume and suppliance of a minute, no more. So he says Hamlet's love for you is, what question is he raising about it? All those little examples, fashion, toy and blood, youth, priming nature, forward, not permanent, it's not long lasting. Okay? It's short in duration. He says, accept this. She says, no more but so? That's all, really? It's not going to last? He goes, no. Why? Because he then goes on and talks about Hamlet's nature, meaning his social status. Well, what is his social status? Prince. Okay? He's the prince. Because he's the prince, he doesn't have the ability to choose what? Who he will marry. Okay? Why not? Doesn't he get to be happy? Doesn't he get to meet his Princess Charming? No, he doesn't. He has to marry who his father, now stepfather, says he will marry. Why? Because at this time, the time of the world of the play, marriages were often diplomatic issues, where you marry off your son to the daughter of another king. Why? To build alliances and such. Okay? Prince Charles, when he married Diana, he didn't get to just decide that on his own. The queen and his father had a say in that. And guess what? They had to prove that Diana was of royal blood. She was. She was Lady Spencer. The lady implies there's some royalty there. You go way back. Kate Middleton? Meghan Markle? Not a drop. Because she's American-Canadian. Or Canadian-American, or primarily Canadian. Whichever it is. But she doesn't have a lick of royal blood in her. It doesn't matter with Harry, though. Why? Because he's never going to be king. The line of succession goes through William and his children. For Harry to become king, he's got to kill off his father, and then William and all of his children. Doesn't have to worry about Kate. She's not in the line of succession. So Hamlet doesn't have that kind of choice. So he says, his greatness weighed, his will is not his own. His greatness, his position in state. What is his actual position? We said it's a prince. What does that mean? He's what? Next in line. All right? Stop for a moment. Who should be king right now? Why? Because he's the son of the dead king. That's why. That's how, I almost said Scar, that's how Claudius usurped the throne. Okay? So he goes on, says a whole bunch of stuff, and says, maybe he does love you right now. But the time will come when he will have to give you up for somebody else. Now, in this discussion, how old does Hamlet sound? Sounds pretty young, right? I don't mean young 9, 10, but teens. He's not. Ophelia says, okay, I'll listen to you. And then she kind of says, but, good my brother, do not, as some ungracious pastors do, show me the steep and thorny way to heaven. The old, can't remember the group, the 2 tickets to paradise kind of a thing. The steep and thorny way to heaven. Heaven here, yes, it does literally mean heaven. Metaphorically, however, it means sex or sexual pleasure. Don't show me the steep and thorny way, the way of denial, whiles like a puffed and reckless libertine himself the primrose path of dalliance treads, while you go off to Paris and sleep around all the time. In other words, don't double standard me, buddy. Don't say, this is what you got to do, but because I'm a man, I get to do other things. Oh, fear me not. In other words, never. The implication is, liar. So Polonius comes in. And Polonius is like, you're still here? And what does Polonius do? He gives advice to his son. Okay? Now these lines of advice, this little speech of Polonius, is often interpreted as nonsense. That this shows us what an idiot Polonius is. I think that reading couldn't be farther from the truth. I think it's just the opposite. These lines actually show Polonius is pretty wise. What's his problem? As we will see later. It's exactly what Ophelia just said to her brother. He doesn't follow his own advice. He is not what he tells Laertes to be at the summation of his speech. True to himself. He doesn't follow this. So, here's the first of his precepts, the first of his wisdom, his proverbs. Give thy thoughts no tongue, nor any unproportioned thought his act. Give thy thoughts no tongue means what? Don't speak your mind. Keep your thoughts to yourself. Like I tell my kids, if I want your opinion, I'll give it to you. Okay? Keep your thoughts to yourself. And nor any unproportioned thought his act. Any thought that is not constrained, that is not bound, that is not reasonable, don't do it. Somebody cuts you off on the highway. They take your parking spot. I'm going to kill you. Don't do that. Several years ago, Bell Street parking lot, a student took a parking spot from another student who was getting ready to get in. The other student who was getting ready to get in, a young woman, knifed the person who took the spot. Obviously, she was expelled, charged, and I'm pretty sure she got a pretty steep, it was like 15 to 20 years. I mean, she got a really steep prison sentence. It took like 3 years, finally. So, you get one of those crazy thoughts, don't carry it out. Be thou familiar, but by no means vulgar. Vulgar, common. That doesn't help a lot, does it? What does that line mean? Be familiar, but don't be common. What? Imagine you throw a party. Here, I'll use me instead. Because I'm old and my parties don't last as long. Imagine I throw a party and I say, okay, 7 to 10 or 6 to 10. What does the 10 mean? Yeah, see you later. Be gone by then. I have thrown parties. My 50th party, 50th birthday party, another guy and I, he was about 6 days older. We did a 50th birthday party, and it was like a 6 to 10. It was at our house, and there were people still there after midnight. And I'm like, they were being vulgar. Why? They were wearing out their welcome. See, be familiar, be known, be friendly, but don't overdo it. Because then you'll never get invited to a party again. And those people weren't invited to the later parties. Those friends thou hast, do what? And their adoption tribe. That is, and you've tested that friendship. You've proven that they're friends. Grapple them to thy soul. That is, bind that friendship fast. Make that friendship really firm. But do not dull thy palm with entertainment of each new-hatched, unfledged comrade. New-hatched, unfledged. New-hatched means person you've just met. Unfledged means immature, like a baby bird that doesn't have the feathers yet. Mama bird pushes it out of the nest, what's it going to do? Flop on the ground. Once it gets its feathers, then it can fly. So it's talking about a friend that hasn't been proven. It's like, I know people, use Facebook as an example with its so-called friends. I know people who have 5,000 friends on Facebook who they've never met in their life. I don't have any friends on Facebook like that. Why? If I don't know you. If I haven't personally met you, you're not a friend. There are a lot of people I know that I've met, that I've interacted with, I've been to their house, etc., that I don't consider friends. They're acquaintances, okay, but not. Why not? Beware of entrance to a quarrel. Now, quarrel can just mean argument. Don't get in a verbal altercation with someone. Or it can mean a fight. A knockdown, drag out, physical fight. So don't get into one of these. But being in. That is, but you find yourself in one, do what? Second Gulf War. Shock and awe, baby. I mean, if you're in a fight, do what? Not only win how? Decisively. Make sure that other person doesn't get back up on their feet and walk out the room, but they have to crawl, dragging a broken leg or something behind them. For what purpose? Bear it that the opposed may beware of you. Now, if that's a verbal disagreement, what does it mean? So win that argument that that person knows not to get in an argument with you again. Is that bad advice? I don't think so. I think that's pretty good advice. If it's an argument, keep doing that. What's the point he's getting at? Get along with people. But if you absolutely can't, so blow them out of the water that they stay away. Because then you get along with people. Give every man thy ear, but few thy voice. Listen to what others have to say, but don't do what? This goes back to the first one. Don't be free with your opinions. Take each man's censure. That's part of giving every man thy ear. Censure? We don't use the word censure very much today. It's usually only used in a political context when a politician gets in trouble and the House or Senate has to censure them. What does that mean? They get their wrist slapped. They get the proverbial, yardstick across the knuckles. It's a criticism. It's a judgment. So, take each man's censure. If somebody's being critical of you, take it. Take it. But do what? Reserve thy judgment. He doesn't say, take it and then respond in kind. Don't pull a Trump on Twitter, right? No matter what you think of Trump, he doesn't like criticism, right? Because what does he say? You're an idiot. Whatever the person says. His common response is, you're an idiot and really dumb. Sin. Right? Jamie Dimon, former president of what? One of the major bank companies, like MasterCard, or not, it wasn't MasterCard, it was Goldman Sachs. You don't get to be CEO of Goldman Sachs by being an idiot. He said the other day, you know, if I were to run in 2020, I'd beat Trump. Trump. Very dumb and stupid. Will never run. Can't talk in public. From the guy who can't form complete sentences in public. Okay? And I'm not anti-Trump. Contrary to most English department members, I'm not anti-Trump. Right? So, reserve thy judgment. Don't be critical of others. Don't judge others. That's good advice. It's keeping your mouth closed. What else? Costly thy habit as thy purse can buy, but not expressed in fancy. Rich, not gaudy. Wear nice clothes. Don't wear super expensive clothes or super fancy clothes. What would we think if one of the women in this class came in on Monday wearing a wedding dress? You'd go, what the hell? Or some of the guys come in wearing tuxes. You go, what's going on? For the apparel oft proclaims the man. And as much as we want that not to be true, it is true. Which is why I would not go for a job interview dressed like this, even if it was at McDonald's. I wouldn't go for a job interview teaching at another university dressed like this. What would I do? I'd wear a suit. Or at the very least, coat and tie. Why? Because the person coming in the room, when they step in the room, what does everybody else get? First impressions. Apparel oft proclaims the man. First impressions mean what? Yes, no. As much as we don't want that to be the case. I told my earlier class, probably about 5 years after I started teaching here, so 20 years ago, I was coming from KUC to Peck Hall. And it was in the 10-minute break. We only had 10 minutes then. 10-minute break between classes. I didn't have class, so I was just been over there, checked my mail. I was coming back, and there was a mass of students heading from Peck over towards the LRC or MassCom or something, like 200 or 300. And there's this guy who left just a few steps in front of me. He's like where the wall is to me, in front of me. And I'm not kidding in this description. This is what he's literally wearing and looked like. Longish hair. His face had a lot of piercings. Nose, upper lip, eyebrows, ears. One of them was like, from the eyebrows, like a big paper clip. That was all it was. Okay? And he's wearing high-top canvas, like Converse sneakers. And he's got on a pink tutu, like a ballerina's tutu. And underneath that, on his legs, either like white tight Levi's or white leggings. Okay? So there's this mass of 200 or 300 people coming this way, and this guy going this way. And he's not just walking, he's kind of skipping like this. And these 200 or 300 people see him coming, and it's like Moses at the Red Sea. And this was back when the walkway was only like this wide. I mean, they just, like, this guy had a plague or something. Apparel oft proclaimed the man. I mean, they didn't want to catch whatever it was he had. All right? And they in France have the best rank and station are the most like. And so he gives his little hat tip to the French are known for their fashion. What else? Neither a borrower nor a lender be. Why? Loan oft loses both itself and friend. You give your friend $100 because they're having a tight month or whatever, tight week, and they don't pay you back, and you keep asking. You You got the $100? Oh, no. I'll give it to you next. What's going to happen to that friendship? It's gone. Okay? And borrowing dulleth edge of husbandry. What's meant by husbandry? It's not literal raising animals. But that is the literal meaning of husbandry. It's hard work. It's a whole lot easier to get a loan than it is to work a 9-to-5 job. And you can get that loan and you just sit there and play games or whatever. Whereas with the job, you maybe actually have to do something, depending on the kind of job. This above all, that is above everything else I've just said. This is like the summation of all of it. To thine own self be true, and it must follow as the night the day. Thou canst not then be false to any man. Yeah, but how do you be true to yourself? What is that saying about the self, or what is inside the self? What must there be? Love for yourself. What else? Notice, to thine own self be, what's the word? True. We've already talked about that word before. It means straight. It means upright. Not deviating. That implies each person has what inside? We use the phrase a moral compass. Where does the compass point? Or should it point? What do mariners use in the northern hemisphere if they don't have a compass or GPS? North Star. You have to have a North Star, a standard. Follow that. And if you follow that in all of your dealings, if you follow your internal moral code, then what? Then you can never be false to anybody else. Now that's not just a blowing hot air, which is how it's often taken. Okay? So, notice, Laertes doesn't say, golly gee, Dad, that's great advice. He doesn't even acknowledge it. It's just, most humbly do I take my leave, my Lord. In other words, you gotta get trained, Dad. Shut up. Why? Because I think he's a typical, quote, not casting any aspersions on you, college-age student who has his life to live. And he wants to go on. This is the son, if you're familiar with, what's his name? Singer-songwriter from the 70s, died in a plane crash, who sang the song Cats in the Cradle. About a guy who goes to work, gets married, has children, the son, wants him to play ball with him. Can't, son, too busy now, but we will later. The child grows up. Hey, Dad, can we? Can't, son, too busy now, but we will later. Kid goes off to college, comes back home. Dad says, son, can we talk? Can't, Dad, busy now. Can I borrow the car keys? That's Laertes. Thanks, Dad. In other words, what happened to Polonius' advice? In one ear, out the other. So now, Laertes leaves, and Polonius is left with Ophelia. What's he want to know? What were you and Laertes talking about? By asking, what were you and Laertes talking about? What is he showing? He doesn't listen to his own advice. It violates almost everything that he said in the previous long speech. Okay? Because he is taking her words and he is insinuating himself where? Just like Laertes did between Ophelia and Hamlet. She tells him, Hamlet, line 110, Hamlet hath importuned me with love in honorable fashion. importuned, requested of me in honorable fashion. He's behaved like a gentleman. Fashion. You may call it. Go to. Your gloss tells you fashion. Mere form, pretense. Well, what's another word for fashion, or what is something that the word fashion involves today, like the fashion industry? Clothing. Because what do? Every day? We put on and take off clothes. He is saying, yeah, it's just like fashion. He's putting on these, how did she put it? Importunings with love. She goes, but he's given countenance to his speech, my Lord, with almost all the holy vows of heaven. Almost all the holy vows of heaven. What is almost good in? Two things. Horseshoes and hand grenades. Right? You don't have to be close. Love. You're off with a date, someone you've known a while, you're really serious about, in fact, you've fallen in love with, and you tell that person, I love you. And he or she replies, I almost love you. What might he or she just as well do? Rip your heart out and stomp on that sucker. Because almost is not good enough. It's like, pregnancy. You can't be almost pregnant. You can't be, I'm nearly there. It's, you are or you aren't. Or dead. You are or you aren't. He says, springs to catch woodcocks. Traps. That's what all those almost holy vows of heaven were. They're traps. What does he want to trap? What does he want, according to Claudius, from Ophelia? A life happily ever after? Beautiful house out in the suburbs? No. What does Hamlet want, according to Polonius and Laertes? Sex. That's it. That's it. He says, Ophelia, do not believe his vows, line 126, for they are brokers. In your gloss for brokers is stupid. Go between procurers. Procurers of what? This idea is going to be brought up later. Sex. The name of a person who procures sex for another person is called what? A pimp. His vows to you are pimps. Okay? Not of that dye which their investments show, but mere implorators of unholy suits, etc., etc. Breathing like sanctified and pious bawds, madams. Okay? She says, I will obey. Scene 4, we get the platform. Go away, you stupid. Phone call. Time. And they're out there at the platform. Horatio's like, what's going up with the party? Hamlet says, this is a custom here more honored in the breach than the observance. That is, it has been a custom, but it is better honored by not doing all the partying. Why? What do the surrounding nations think of Denmark? They're a bunch of drunks. Okay? So, the ghost appears, Hamlet. Angels and ministers of grace defend us. What's he saying? Holy God, help me. Okay? And then he makes 3 statements. Be thou a spirit of health, a goblin damned. Bring with thee heirs from heaven or blast from hell. Or be thou intense, wicked, or charitable. I'm going to talk with you. Notice, whether you come from God or from Satan, I'm going to talk to you. All right? So the ghost kind of looks at Hamlet, goes, come here. Hamlet goes off with him, even though the others tell him not to. And what does the ghost tell him? I am thy father's spirit. Doomed for a certain term to walk the night, and for the day confined to fasting fires, till the foul crimes done in my days of nature are burnt and purged away. Beginning lines 10 and following. in scene 5. Well, how do you get crimes burnt and purged away when you're dead? Where do you get that done? Purgatory. In other words, he's not damned. He's not in hell. If you make it to purgatory, according to Catholic doctrine, you will go to heaven eventually. It might take a long time. Right? So, Hamlet says, "Oh God, revenge my murder." The king says. Hamlet says, "Murder? Tell me." So the king tells him how he was killed. "Yes, I was asleep in my orchard, and my damn brother came up and poured poison in my ear. So avenge my death." But he gives Hamlet 2 qualifications. 1, taint not thy mind, line 85, page 1623, and leave your mother alone. So what does that mean, to taint not your mind? What does taint mean? If you taint something. If I were to taint this whiteboard, what would I need to do? It's tainted. White paint, a drop of any color. Yellow paint, a drop of any color other than yellow, added to it. Taints it. So taint not thy mind, Hamlet says, means, Hamlet, stay in your right mind. Don't let this kind of consume you. Does Hamlet listen? No. He says, "Remember thee," line 95. "I, thou poor ghost, while memory holds a seat in this distracted globe. Remember thee, yea, from the table of my memory, I'll wipe away all trivial fond records, all saws of books, all forms, everything I've learned, everything I've remembered in my lifetime, whoosh, gone. Replaced with what? Kill Claudius." Tainting his mind? No, he's going full bore the other direction. Okay, we will pick up with bottom of 1625 on Monday. Have a good weekend.